Well, hello there, and welcome to my weekly Wednesday broadcast. Super excited to be here. I'm going to get us started with a few cute little emoji falling down from the sky. It is summertime, and I'm wondering how you are doing. I'm just going to check that my comments window is open so that I can say hello to the one and only Pauline Riley. Hello, Pauline. It's great to see you. Thank you for joining me. And you're coming to me from both locations. I so appreciate it. Technology is an amazing thing. And I love learning new things to do with the technology that I use. And I can broadcast now to multiple locations at once. And so if you want to join me on my Facebook page, you can, which is Anne LaFollette Art. If you're watching from there, welcome. And you can also watch from my YouTube channel. And my YouTube channel is at Anne LaFollette with the number 1 at the end. And so if you're watching from YouTube, either now or the replay, you are also welcome here. So I'm going to jump right in, and I'm going to talk about a topic that I actually struggle with myself, and that is balancing my creativity with running my business. Now, I wrote a blog post about it, so if you want to go read the blog, you can go to my website, annelafolletteart.com, and you'll see a red button in the upper right-hand corner that says blog on it. If you click there, you will see my blog, and I post a blog every week. You can also go directly to the blog by going to annelafolletteart.com/blog, and you'll land immediately there, which saves you a click. But here's the thing. I want to jump right into today's topic, which is balancing your creative passion with the business that you are running that is actually about that creative passion. So tell me in the comments, are you in this situation currently where you love, for example, to do surface pattern design, and you love to create new patterns, and you love to put them on things like wrapping paper or on fabrics, which I have behind me, and that actually is your business, right? That is either all of your business or a part of your business. Maybe you actually love to knit, and you are part of a community of other knitters, or maybe you teach knitting online. Maybe you're a crafter and you love to create crafts and then sell either a membership. Maybe you have a membership for all of your crafters, and every single month you teach them how to do something new. You might have a fantastic favorites box business where you actually are sending goodies to people in your membership, and inside the box are the crafting supplies that you're going to be teaching them how to use that month. Obviously, there are tons and tons of different creative businesses out there. But my question to you is, if you're running a creative business, do you sometimes struggle with the amount of time you're spending running the business compared to the amount of time you're spending doing the creative thing that got you started in the first place, right? It got you started wanting to have a business in the first place, because it can be a little bit tricky, right? It can be a little bit tricky. And, we started our business, for many of us, because we wanted to have some additional income. We also wanted to have a little bit more sort of freedom to be our own boss, which is a wonderful thing. And we also started the business because we wanted to have a little bit more flexibility, or more ease in our cash flow, right? We wanted to be able to bring some additional money in to support our families. But sometimes once that business is up and running, you find yourself spending all your time in it. And that's actually wasn't necessarily part of the program, or you didn't realize that that was going to be an unintended consequence of actually starting a creative business in the space where you actually enjoy your creativity yourself. So another example would be, you're a watercolor artist and you love to do watercolor work, and now you have a a course that teaches other people your watercolor techniques. You have a membership that teaches other people how to continue to up level their watercolor skills. And so you don't find any time to do watercolor because you're running your business and you're teaching others how to improve their watercolor skills, but you're not really doing your own unique watercolor work anymore because you don't have time for it. So that's what I want to talk about today. I want to talk about how do you regain some level of balance. And I ran into this same thing for sure, right? I ran into the same thing. And the reason that it was really hard for me also is they're sort of two parts. You're using two different parts of your brain, right? So your creative side of your brain needs a lot of space. But the business side of your brain is actually more rigid. It's more regimented. It's more tactical, right? There's a lot more tactics that you need to execute against, right? And so a couple of things that kind of came up for me around this is that creativity and your creative work requires openness, and it requires some spaciousness, and it requires some time. You have to set aside time for it. And because you need that time to sort of to think and to play and to warm up. And, you can't create a masterpiece just like, oh, I got 10 minutes, right? And on the flip side, your business work requires structure and repetitive actions and a lot of decisions. And that is actually where you also need to have focus, but having systems to support you is going to also help help you create a little bit more space. So here's my personal journey with balance. So when I started my business, I was super focused on getting it up and running. Right? It was all about how did I build my first program? Was it going to be a course or a membership, or was it going to be physical products? And when I started out, it was actually physical products. Then I had to learn about email marketing, and I had to learn about how do you make a lot of money at a craft fair? What's the best way to just show up at craft fairs so that they're profitable for you? Or how do you grow your email list if you're going to teach an online course, right? And then also there's lots of tech. Right? So I just started off today by telling you about how I now am using tech. I'm always evolving. I'm not necessarily changing. This is important. I'm not changing the tech tools that I use, but I'm evolving the way that I use them to get even more of a benefit from them. So I use Ecamm Live, which is a software program that works on Macs. It does not work on on your PC, but it works on Macs, and it continues to improve. And so back in the day, you could only broadcast to one place, but now you can broadcast to multiple places. And so both allows me to talk to you depending on which platform you prefer, and it means I can get my message out to more people. But that's a great way. I'm still doing just one thing. I'm going live on Wednesday, but now I can get the message out more broadly because I'm leveraging the technology and trying to stay up to date with when they have an update. What is the update and how can I use that update to the benefit of my business and to give me a little bit more space or get a little more leverage, maybe a different way to say it. So when I was in building my business, and frankly, for the first several years of my business, it was all about the business. And so my creativity took a nosedive, meaning I didn't have time in my calendar to create new artwork, right? To create my own new designs, to create a new series of products for my product line, or to have a new series of fabrics manufactured so that I could then make, I have a series of blouses. And I wasn't finding any time for the creative part that was why I started in surface design to begin with. And so that's where this, lack of balance comes in. And so there's what I realized. I realized that no one was going to come and fix this for me. I was going to need to fix it for myself. And the way that I fixed it, and what I recommend for you too, is you have to put it in your calendar. Right? You have to treat the time that you want to spend on your creative pursuit almost like a business meeting. And I don't want that to feel bad. We don't want that to be, I use that analogy not so that it makes your creativity feel like a business, but more that you're actually setting aside the time just like you would for a business activity. And so I think it depends a little bit about how you're wired. So if you are more in the creative space, maybe you struggle more with how do you set aside the time to run the business, and are you maybe neglecting the business side, like where you might be able to make a higher profit, or when you should actually be putting that launch on the calendar so it's not always further out into the future, right? So if you're more of a creative person and sort of less wired on the business side, you might be having the opposite problem that I have been having. So I am more wired because I had a corporate career, and my corporate career was in finance and business development. I am very business orientated. And so I have the sort of opposite to what I just described, where I'll spend all my time in the business making sure that it's super profitable and I understand all my numbers and I understand exactly what I got to do next in order to hit my next goal. And then I don't find the time to create and to figure out what's a really fun new bonus I could include in my signature program, the Pattern Design Academy, or what's a new and novel way to offer my From Doodles to Dollars coaching week. By the way, enrollment is open for my Doodles coaching week. And so if you haven't taken it before, or you want to take it again because you need a refresher, early bird pricing is available right now. It's only $10. And so to do that, just go to my website, annafawlettart.com, and you'll see at the top, there in the top announcement bar, there's a clickable link to go grab your seat to Doodles, or you can just scroll down and you'll see there's a big banner in the center of my website, my landing page, that also has a clickable link where you can go grab your early bird ticket. It's only $10, but it's going to be $37 soon. So if you want to take Doodles again, or you've never taken Doodles before, it's an incredible week where I teach you step by step how to create your first repeating pattern so that you can put it on wrapping paper or on fabrics. But I digress. So here's the conversation. Tell me in the chat. I can see that several of you are here. Rocio is here, who's joining us from Switzerland. Hello, Rocio. It's great to see you. Maria, you just had an incredible live event, right? You did a Doodles creative perk coffee session with the wonderful ladies in your area. I saw that, which was amazing. But if you were to sort of take stock of your own sort of where you sit on this continuum between creativity and business, what would you say? Are you you're more love to just stay in the creative space and it's harder to find the time for the business? Or is it more you're on the business side and you need to find time for your creativity? I think I know, since I know both of you quite well, I think I know what you're going to say, but you can let me know. Okay, so here's a couple of other things. I wanted to give you some just tips about, okay, well, how do we address this issue? Whether it's that I don't have enough time for my creativity or I don't have enough time to actually run my business more efficiently. So I've got some tips for you. So the first one is you got to schedule the time, right? And so make sure you get out your calendar and you're looking at maybe a week at a time and you're saying, okay, when am I blocking out time to do, for me, to spend time actually creating some new surface pattern designs? And I like to do either a half an hour block or an hour block, or sometimes I have a little bit more space and so I can block off a little bit more time. The key thing is if you schedule it, it'll happen. This is so important. And like we talked about, I think last week, you are 42% more likely to do the task if you have written it down. So that's tip number one. Right? And even 15 minutes can make a really big difference. So that's tip number one. Then tip number two is if you are actually running the business and there are things in your business that you have to do on a repeated basis, you want to try to batch those activities. And this actually works on the creative side of the ledger as well. But what I mean by that is I write a blog every Tuesday. And, well, let me rephrase. I schedule and send out an email every Tuesday morning, but I don't write the email on Tuesday. I try to batch my emails so that my newsletter, my Doodles Digest newsletter, so that I have 4 of them kind of in the bag, right? So I set aside 1 day a month, and I figure out what it is that I'm going to want to be speaking about or talking about in my newsletter, the Doodles Digest newsletter. And then I try to batch 4 at a time. And that gives me a lot of extra space so that I don't on Sunday night, I'm not in a panic on a Sunday night saying, oh my gosh, I haven't written my Doodles Digest newsletter. I have to figure out, I got to do it like right now, right? So batching is another also just amazing technique in a few other ways. Your brain is wired to do similar activities and get even better at them, right? It's kind of like if you're practicing, I don't know if any of you play tennis, but if you're practicing your tennis, if you keep practicing your forehand over and over and over and over again, you're going to get really good. If you go forehand, backhand, forehand, backhand, forehand, backhand, overhead, volley, it's harder because you're switching it up. And so you're not building sort of the muscle memory on one shot if you're mixing it up all the time. And of course, you need to do that to get good. And we need to get good at multitasking in our businesses, or doing multiple things, not at the same time in our businesses. But the batching part means that you're going to get faster and better. So I do the same thing for my podcast, right? I have a podcast now. It's called the Creative Business Spark Podcast, and you can find it wherever you listen to your podcasts. And I batch them as well. Because when you're in kind of the groove of recording them and editing them and then uploading them, you can get into a groove, and then you actually get to be a little bit faster. Whereas if you're switching gears and doing a different task every time you're, during the course of a day, if you're doing a different task like every 2 hours, you lose a lot of time in between as you're transitioning from one activity to another. So batching is something that really, really works well. And then I think it's super important to keep things as simple as possible, right? Just keep things as simple as possible. So this is where going down a rabbit hole or having that squirrel kind of trying something new all the time and can be fun, but can also distract you from staying on the path to where you're trying to go. And then the other thing is that I also set boundaries, right? Super important to set some boundaries about, when do I start working in the morning and when do I finish working at the end of the day? And how do I make sure that I'm not taking on extra projects that don't actually align with what I'm trying to achieve in any particular year? And, frequently somebody might reach out and want to me to work on something with them. And I always will be open to it, but I also need to make sure that I see, well, if I'm taking on something new, then I have this theory about, it's kind of like when you're cleaning your house, or maybe this is a better analogy, when you go to the bookstore. If you already have a ton of books, you can't bring home a new book unless you've taken one of your books and either given it to somebody else, or you've given it to the library, or you've taken it to Goodwill. It's kind of this brick in, brick out theory, because otherwise it's like overwhelming. So if you take on a new project, something else has to go away. And so it's important to have that as a filter as you're thinking about what it is that you want to take on if it's something new, right? Is that something new going to continue? Is it on the customer journey that you're creating for your customer? So that because you want to make sure that they're continuing to move forward with whatever it is you're teaching them and whatever you're sharing in your creative community. Okay, so I have some reflection questions for you, and I'm looking over here because I have my blog like really, really big on screen so I can read it. But here are 3 reflection questions for you. Guys ready? So the first one is, where do you feel most drained in your business right now? I think it's important to sort of know that. And so that could be work that you're doing. So I know, Maria, you're still in a full-time job. So what part of that job is the most draining? Because as soon as you have some awareness around how much that is draining you, then you know, well, you can't try to do something creative on top of that, right? When you get home at night, for example. And I think that you've gotten to a really great place where you know that your Sundays really are the only place where you're going to feel relaxed and you're going to feel like you have open space to think. And that's when you can actually lean more into your creativity as well as the business, the creative business you're building while you continue to work full time. The second question is, what creative activity brings you the most joy or relaxes you the most? So Maria, you're another great example. You love to doodle and you love to also paint and do mixed media. And so you had that really great event just a few days ago where you were showing where you were doing a creative perk, right? Going to a coffee shop, having additional women come and meet you there, and then doing a creative activity together, which is awesome. Which is really, really awesome, right? And then the third thing is, what's one small change that you could make this week to protect space for your creativity? So that would be another thing to reflect upon. So my final thoughts on this topic are that there's always going to be a push and a pull in a creative business, because there's the creative side of the business and then there's the business side of the business, right? So there's always going to be some push and pull. But I think that what's really important is that you remember that your creativity is why you started the business in the first place. And so you don't want whatever that creative practice is to fall to the wayside. Your business needs to exist to support your art, but not overshadow it. Right? It supports it, but you don't want it to overshadow it. I think that's a super important concept. And then you can design your days, if you're very intentional, you can design your days to honor both. So I hope that this has been helpful. And you can go and read the full blog post at annafollettart.com/blog. And let me see if there are any comments that I wanted to bring on. So Maria said, I need help with social media. Yep. And social media can be a bit of a rabbit hole for sure. Right. But you also said that the business side needs some work. The creative work needs time. Yes, that's such a good point. So the business side needs work, meaning you need to invest some time there, I think. But also your creative work, you have to find time for it. Great way to say it. Great way to say it. All right. So I'm usually, I try to be really, really good and only keep you for about 20 to 25 minutes. I'm going to do my cute little emoji again to send you off. And I'll be back again next week to talk more. But if you have any friends who want to learn how to how to turn a doodle into their first repeating pattern using Adobe Illustrator, then please invite them to come to Doodles, because my Doodles coaching week starts on July 30th. And you can send them to annafollettart.com, where they can learn more, because there's a place where they can actually click the Learn More button and find out all the details about how I teach you how to create your first repeating pattern. It's super fun. It's a great summertime activity, and you can send the link to your friends. Send them to my website and tell them that they can get all the details there. All right, so have a great day, everyone. And, I always like to say in closing that I am Anna Follett, and it's never too late to create. Bye for now, and I'll see you next week.